The old man was just spraying water at the building across the street when disaster suddenly struck. The entire building began to shake violently. The ground instantly tore apart, and the building's walls started collapsing. The man thought he was hallucinating and quickly grabbed onto a painting on the wall for support. But the shaking intensified. Cracks appeared in the glass. The building began to sink gradually. Luca shouted for the old man across the street to call the police immediately, but the old man was stunned by the scene before him. Then the power lines collapsed, and the entire building plummeted rapidly, finally coming to a stop when it got wedged between the surrounding rocks. Now the building had fallen into a pit hundreds of feet deep. Suddenly, a car fell onto the rooftop. Luca was about to be hit by the car. He quickly raised his feet to brace against it and managed to kick the vehicle away with great effort. The building began falling again. This time, the car fell from the rooftop, crashed through the balcony, and landed inside the man's apartment. The person inside banged on the window, crying for help. The man recognized his colleague who had dined at his place the night before. He pulled at the car door, trying to rescue him, but accidentally ripped off the door handle. At that very moment, the car began sliding backward. His colleague cursed frantically from inside. He then desperately pulled at the car door himself, surprised at how poorly made the Korean car was. Fortunately, the car eventually got stuck at the edge of the pit. The colleague crawled out through the window. They then found their female colleague trapped in another room. The group made their way to the rooftop, trying to call for help from the outside world, but they were too far from the surface. There was no signal at all. Luca's son suggested they should first gather survival supplies, so everyone began busying themselves with the task. Meanwhile, rescue operations had begun outside, but just as rescue personnel descended, the surrounding ground began collapsing again. The personnel search had to be suspended. They switched to using drones for reconnaissance, but the sinkhole exceeded 300 feet underground. The drone soon lost signal and fell. The people underground were thrilled to see the search drone. It meant they still had hope. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook violently. The building wedged in the pit began falling again. The ground tilted. The colleague was about to fall into the abyss. At the critical moment, the female colleague spotted a bundle of cables. She immediately crawled toward it. Suddenly, a rock tumbled down ahead of her, but amazingly, she safely dodged it. She then handed one end of the cable to her colleague while holding the other end, looping it around a pillar and pulling hard. Luca was also at the bottom helping to pull the cable. Suddenly, the cable snapped. Standing at the edge, Luca lost control and fell backward.